I am the original T. Not about drama, let's get ourselves free. I am the original T. I'll tell you some stories, we'll look for that key. I am the original T. Let's talk about life, it's as vast as the sea. I am the original T. Let's all find a path, we'll live it and let it be.
Hello, I'm back. I thought of something to talk about today. It's been on my mind quite a bit actually. So, I don't know about you, but I am over 50. Actually, I will be 56 very soon. And I would really like to talk about our age and our careers, getting into careers, getting new jobs, or changing our careers later in life. Although it's weird because even at 55, I still just feel like, I don't know, 20s, 30s. It's like you get kind of stuck in an age in your mind. So I like to say I'm now my parents' age. So that's how I see myself. So thinking about what it's like to get into the job market, especially as a woman and a woman in her 50s or maybe 40s, 60s, 70s, because we are absolutely capable of having careers up to any age so long as we can perform the task. But I think, or I know, that there can be quite a bit of prejudice or ageism for women in the workplace. And that's not just a feeling, that's a fact. And you can look that up and you can see what the statistics are. I can maybe add some in the description or some links that will help you see some of the different studies that have been done, and just the fact that a lot of our male colleagues are being paid more for the same role. And that's nothing against our male colleagues, because that was not their decision, right? It has to do with who is hiring us, and it has to do with the overall view of women and equality in the workplace. And the thing is, if you think about equality, a lot of women will say, well, of course women have equal rights. Obviously they do. But I believe it was in the 70s where in America, where I was born, we as women tried for the Equal Rights Amendment. And there was a vote put to that I wasn't a voting age at that time, but all were able to vote on that, and it turned out that we voted against it. So women included voted against themselves ultimately. That could have been pressure at the time because it was a different world back then, and maybe women felt pressure, or they were scared of the unknown, or they didn't want to upset people, because at an early age a lot of women learn or are taught to not rock the boat, to be nice. It's nice to be nice. It's nice to get along. It's nice to be quiet. It's nice to be helpful. All of those things are nice, but it's also okay to be competitive and to be vocal and to be bold and to ask for what you want. But a lot of us still, somewhere in our gut, don't believe that. And so a lot of work has to come along for us to get to the point where we know that we absolutely have every right to seek the jobs we want and to get the pay that we deserve for those roles. So that's just one aspect I wanted to bring up. And I wondered if any of you had faced something like this in your career history of being in a job and finding out that you were not being paid the same wage, or that you were being treated differently, or that you had to feel like you had to act a certain way to get along, not to be too bossy or pushy or bitchy, you know. So there are these silent rules in some places, in some workplaces, where that is a fact, and women have learned to be quiet and just get along. So more and more you're starting to see women in positions of management, women CEOs, but not widespread. It's not the typical right now. We're not there yet. So we're actually still not equal, and we haven't made it there yet, and it's going to take some time. And in these last 4 years, especially in America, a lot of women have told me that they feel like they've been set back due to the administration and the president that we had and the mindset that went with that president. That women felt excluded, or there to be seen and not heard. And that's such old school thinking, and it's so wrong. But that's what we got when that president was voted in. That's what we got. And so women have had to fight harder, and they will continue to have to fight harder still. And fighting, when I say fighting, I mean pushing ahead. I mean being vocal. I mean studying and making sure you understand what your rights are and what the statistics are. Education is everything. So if you study up and find out what the truth is, it's empowering, and you can have a lot more courage and drive to feel like you can push ahead and get that role that you want, or get that raise you deserve. It takes a lot. It's not something for me, as I came up through the ages here, for me, that was natural. I got myself stuck into kind of a rut thinking that I had to just go along to get along. And it wasn't until my later years where I realized, right, you know, I'm perfectly capable of doing these things, and I'm perfectly capable of doing lots of things, and I can speak up, and I can be hard, and I can be diplomatic, and that is not bitchy. That is just being smart and keeping your cool and being collected and knowing what you want. That's all it is. It's the same for men. It should be the same for women. So if you feel like you've been labeled, if you feel like you've had to struggle that much harder, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, or even post your own return video, and I'll share it on my page and share about what you've been through. So that's part 1 of this video. Part 2 is about a change of career in your later years. So That's what happened to me. I was in the software industry for a few decades, actually, or at least a couple decades. Before that, I did hair. I've done lots of things, but my main career was an end-to-end process management person, and I did escalations management. I did customer care. I was brought on by some Fortune 500, Fortune 10 and 20s to assist them in reworking their processes and how they did things. And I loved doing that. I loved creating new ways of tracking processes and looking from start to finish of buying software. I actually found that you could be purchasing enterprise software, which could be millions and millions of dollars or pounds, but you were still going through the same door as everyone else. So somebody who just bought a small amount of software, these people who purchased an enterprise experience were just calling the same support line, waiting in line like everybody else. And that's not right? So when you go and you buy a car and you go and get a Cadillac or a Mercedes, whatever it is, you're buying an upper class, upper range in price product, and you're treated that way, and you know that, and the customer care tends to be superior, and you are looked after, and you know that it's a special experience. So I made sure that I created a process that people who were companies that were purchasing enterprise products got an enterprise experience, and it was awesome. I also developed a way to catch software piracy. That sounds really scary, doesn't it? Software piracy, but it can happen quite innocently, actually. And I hope I'm not geeking out on you too much here, but to keep it simple, even engineers and software folks who are buying our products, our licenses, they would put it on their servers, right? And so you've got one engineer guy who is working on the software and the licensing, and maybe he leaves. And before he leaves, he gives that license back because he wants to get a new license to put on a different server, so he's swapping them over. Well, there have been times that I caught where these guys weren't aware, and when they were supposed to have left that license, they called it purging the license. We found out they were still using the old one and the new one, and over time they had thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of revenue that was being leaked out of the companies by accident, or just by there not being a process. So I created, along with some of our engineers at the company, a process to be able to take a look when a customer was up to renew their contract. What we did was we made that part of the renewal. So when you renewed your product, we said, great, when you sign this means next time you're up for renewal, we'll ask for your server files. And what I would do is I would run an analysis against what they purchased, what was in use, what they said that they had purged, and what the discrepancy was. And then I would work with the sales reps and the renewal reps, and I would get on the phone and we would have a meeting with these, usually it was management or executive management, and explain to them what happened. And we put it in a positive way. What we said was, you want to stay compliant, which is true. All companies want to stay compliant. That's important. And by having these excess licenses, you would be out of compliance. So that means you either need to give them back or you need to purchase them. And what we did was we worked out a deal, because what we would say and what we found to be true was they needed those licenses. They got used to using them. They had several users attached to those licenses. So it's not like, we could just kill them all off and their company would be okay. So what we said was, look, you're already using them. We know you want to stay compliant. Let's work together, and we'll work out a payment that will cover that, and kind of make it as a deal and keep it positive so that it was not threatening. And I created that process, and I got our executive management to buy into it and allow me to create a small team of 2 of us to work on this process. And we did wonders. We recouped many, many hundreds and thousands of dollars, potentially millions, that were being lost. So even when I left that company, they continued to use that process. So it's been quite a few years now, so I don't know if they're still using that process, but I hope so. It's a good way to keep track of things, right? So we're capable. Women are capable of doing these things. And hey, I don't have a college degree, let me tell you that right now. I did not go to school for software. I did not go to engineering school. I went to beauty college, right? I went to high school. And over time, I actually started out as the receptionist at this business that I ultimately became and created my own process for. I started just letting people in the building and giving them their name tags and collecting faxes. And I started talking to the licensing group and saying, what would it take for me, a receptionist, to learn how to do this? And they helped me and they showed me. And the next time there was an opening after about a year of being a receptionist at about minimum wage while I was raising my son, I got in. I got in as a licensing rep and worked with customers on their licensing. And from there, I became a team lead. And then from there, I created my own process and I sold it, the idea, to the business, and they used that. And so the sky is the limit. And sometimes education can potentially get in your way if you're stuck thinking in the box, right? There's lots of people who have had brilliant educations and come into software, come into any business, and they just blockbusters. They're amazing. But there are also people who have had hands-on experience, life experience, and that's me. And I just learned it as I went along and kept it, and I asked questions and I thought of the big picture. And that's how I ended up being successful in the industry. So this last year I decided, after COVID and after family members being affected and the stress and strain that it puts on the family, it became really hard for me to concentrate and go at the rate I was going in that business. So I decided to walk away from a really great job, and it was well paying, but I could not keep up with the hours and the focus that you need. You need to really focus to be able to be successful at that. And so I said goodbye and I went away, and I decided that I would change my career. And what I ended up going into was the funeral industry. Because before all of this .com life, I've always been interested in, or always been driven or felt the need to work with others one-to-one, to talk to people who were maybe sick, Maybe they had cancer, maybe they had a terminal illness, or maybe the families were struggling. I wanted to lend comfort, insight, education, and a bit of normalcy to this, to life. I think a lot of people who end up with cancer, they struggle because sometimes they get treated differently and they just want to feel like themselves because they are themselves. They just happen to have cancer or some other type of disease, but they're still them. So that was my goal. And I started out studying to be what's called a funeral celebrant, which is the person who works with the family of the person who has died and creates the eulogy and leads the funeral service. And so I got certified doing that. And just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I then went for my funeral arranger's course. And now I have been certified as a funeral arranger. And in November, I am going to take what's called a foundation course in, and this is going to sound a bit wild, it's called death doula. But what that means is, well, a doula these days is like a midwife, right? You're helping the mother and the family bring a new life into the world, and you're supporting and being of service to others. Death doula is the same thing, but we're helping people who are getting ready to say goodbye. I like to say going to the other side. See you on the other side. And I'm going to be learning how to help people, how to work with people, how to talk to families, how to lend some comfort and some normalcy and some respect and dignity and compassion and hope to those who are in that situation, because there is still hope. And as someone I met online said, you can be terminal, but you're not terminal the whole time, right? You're still alive. So why not live your life to the fullest that you can? So we work with what you have and work with what you can do. And then we also work with looking at the end of your life and how you want to deal with that, and make sure things are going the way you want, and find ways for you to talk about that and find comfort and acceptance, and also work with family members, because a lot of times, as I said, family members can really, really struggle with that, and they may not feel comfortable talking about it. They may treat you a bit differently. They might be sad, right? So it's hard for family members to be fully supportive in some ways. They do fantastic jobs, but it's hard, isn't it? When someone you love is dying, and you need somebody to be there to help. And it's kind of like a third party, right? So I can lend an outsider's view and help support and create a safe place and a positive place and a place of dignity and forward thinking, even though it's end of life. Maybe that isn't the end of everything. Depends on what you believe in. I'm there to help you open your horizons or to go along with what you believe. But that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm driven to do, and I'm doing it. I'll tell you what, it was scary as hell walking away from a job after COVID, a well-paying job, I might add, with wonderful people, and having to do that. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, because I like to take care of people, so having a good paycheck is another way to take care of my family and make sure they all have what they need. But I was starting to go running on empty. So changing this has changed me and is starting to feel like I'm feeding my own soul. And in doing that, I think that I will be able to manage and still bring in an income, but in a different way. And in a way that makes me look forward and feel happy and content and be helpful. That's what I like to do. That's who I am. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I just wanted to talk about where I came from and what I'm doing now, and age is not going to stop me. And I hope age does not stop you. It doesn't have to. We go on, you know. You could be 80, you could be 90. There are people that are 100 years old that can still think absolutely clearly. So, don't give up. Don't say, oh, this is it. You know, I'm old now. I have to just, sit at home and, hang out. Unless that's what you want to do, then more power to you. Hang out in the garden and enjoy the hell out of it. But if you want to start a new career, do new business, or join an existing one, why not? Why not? We can do it. We're capable, right? So give me some feedback. Tell me about you. Tell me what you've been doing and what it's like. Men are welcome as well. If you want to talk about a career change or what it's been like for you in the career industry, share. Everyone is welcome to share here. I want to hear from you. Let's start a conversation and keep it going. So take care of yourself, and I will be back with more. You can count on that. So stay well, and I'll say goodbye.